welcome to the Simply Evolving podcast. Thank you guys so much for your support. I want to thank you guys for the support from, if you were day one from the Goddess Cave season 1 in 2021, now officially rebranded to Simply Evolving 2023. I just want to thank you guys so much. Let me just start off with this. The Goddess Cave was a place for me to basically do some self-awareness, some digging in different aspects of my life, which the goddesses kind of represented. The cave is just a secluded space, a place that I can feel safe. It just so happens that on that journey, it led me to a different place to be safe, which is in the Word, my relationship with God, finding all those things and being affirmed and having Him, affirm me rather than just these things that someone made up. Like the Bible is steadfast, it is stable, it is not changing. His word does not change, it does not waver. Opposed to the different like routes that you can take with that type of content. Like, of course, at the same time, I wasn't going deep into all those things, although I did dabble in like tarot and stuff like that, as far as general readings and reading astrology and things of that nature, zodiacs or whatever. I actually wasn't really too crazy about zodiacs, but of course, that kind of content follows through with that. So I am not ashamed of my process to where I am today, but I just feel like I'm in such a more aligned place now, and I'm just really grateful and thankful for this place. So, yeah, that's how I'm feeling. So, and Simply Evolving, let me just, I guess, break that down to you guys. So, Simply Evolving, if anyone follows me on Instagram, my Instagram name is Evolving. I love that. I think we are, as humans, whether you're a man or a woman, we are forever changing. Just think of from being a zygote to becoming into the world as a baby to coming into, youth, adolescence, teenager, whatever. Keep going on. We are constantly evolving mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And I love that part. I think it's a good thing to embrace about yourself. The 2 E's represents the 2 E's in my name. Double E, act like you know. So all my basic content, like my Instagram, my TikTok is at Evolving. My personal YouTube is Evolving with Ebony. And then Simply is because it's just simple. Like, this is just simply what I'm doing at this stage in my life and will forever be doing. So, period. Okay? Because when anybody asks you, who are you? What does this woman represent? I am a woman who is simply evolving. Okay? Point blank. So that's the Simply Evolving behind the new rebranded name of this podcast. Y'all. Get into it, y'all. Because listen, okay, it's just so crazy. Like I said, I want you guys to take this from me. Like, never feel like a failure. Never feel like you're not worthy when it comes to times where you want to shift something, but you still believe in the overall purpose. Sometimes, like the Goddess Cave just represented me being in a certain place in my life that I'm no longer in, and I tried to, fix it and finagle it and whatever, and I didn't want to let go. Ironically, that was like another genre, a part of my 2022 and further back story was having a fear of letting things go. And once I embrace that, it gets kind of reflected in all different areas of my life. It's so amazing how I was just going through so many things that reflected every area of my life that I need to work on. Like, when I say God did his big one on me, like, come on now. Like, within my family, within my romantic relationship, within my job, speaking up for myself, building my confidence, like, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Like, yeah, he was doing his big one, but I am so grateful and thankful for the gradual change that he was able to affirm me and coach me through the process, through the many mentors that I've listened to: Miles Monroe, Les Brown, Tony Gaskins, Sarah Jakes, TD Jakes, Darius Daniels, Jerry Flowers, the many great people out there. Jim Rohn. I am a It's so crazy how I was once seeking knowledge in tarot and getting all these answers, and to have all these people who I just mentioned to all be getting their wisdom from the same place, referencing all the same things, all the self help books, all the guides to life, has all come. You'll see the common denominator has all come from the Bible. So why not really tap in and get close to God and learn for yourself, you know? Because I think for every single person in the world, there is something for you to learn and get from the Bible itself and your personal relationship with God that no one else can get you. Like, I had to get to that place as well, to where I used to be a student who only went out and got my research from other people, and it had to get to a place to where, like, I was listening to the content, but it kind of came like I don't know, it kind of became like a routine, and I wasn't really getting as deep. I would start to get more surface level and to start to feel a void of, okay, let me just check that off the list, to now I'm more so going deeper into research. Like, I'm in therapy now. I write things in my journal. I go to scripture, not as much as I should, but I do. And I write notes now. I'm not just listening to listen for the heck of it. I'm writing things down, like when I'm at work doing my What's Feeding You movement. I am using my headphones, my AirPods, to say, "Hey Siri, write down this note." What do you want to do? Sorry, y'all. Or, whatever, stuff like that, so I can remember things while I'm at work. So I'm being proactive in the things that I'm learning, so I can come back to it as well. So it's all a learning experience. Yet the things that I was doing once before have set me up to be in this place where I am now, to know that it's not just enough to listen to the things. It's enough you have to also take the notes. You have to also do your own research. You have to also apply those things to your life. You know what I'm saying? And not get into a routine. So yeah. Like, because I'm just simply evolving. Did you see that evolution right there? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Baby, because it's like, principalities, you said what? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you saying to me? Like, yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm back in my Ellie boy. Oh, yeah. Like, stop playing. Mm-hmm. Y'all just lash? It's bothering me. But, like, because it's like, once you get that approval from God, once he affirms you of the healthy things. Like, I used to feel like I was too goofy. Like, I start to feel like my whole character trying to depict certain things apart, when it's like, no, God cosmically created me this way to be the way that I am. Like, you don't gotta turn down for what? Like, come on now. Like, we don't gotta do that. Y'all just lash. Look at me. Y'all, it's crazy. Like, I'm embracing my natural self in every single part of me. It's an authenticity for me. Like, look at me doing bare nails. Gel shellac. Oh, yes. Yes, because it's like, the moral of the story is, do what you gotta do and be resourceful for what God has blessed you with. Sometimes you don't always need the new things, because sometimes it's like, ma'am, sir, you didn't take care of and you aren't using and utilizing what I've already blessed you with. So I'm gonna need you to go take some inventory. You know what I'm saying? I need you to take some inventory of what I already blessed you with, because you're not going to be able to be a good steward over what I have for you until you can maintain and balance what I've already given you. You know, there are some things that I had to give up in different areas of my life, but what's your sacrifice and obedience? These little things that God wants you to get rid of, you think He gonna give you something? What does Darius Daniels always say? He's not gonna give you anything, okay, inferior in return. So whatever is lost, baby, you better sit back, relax, and how the song go? Throw up your feet, because something better is coming. Like, This time I'm about to be like, this time around I'm gonna be like, oh, it's the replacements, around this boy, whatever, something gotta go. Whenever I lose something, like, okay, you lose $20, $50, $60 about to pop up somewhere, like, you gonna save $50 on your grocery bill somewhere. And this is the thing, you also have to like embrace, this is one thing I've had a kind of like a hard time understanding, and I'm finally being able to embrace. It's like, what you lose, you may not get it back in that same way. Meaning, if you lose some money, you might get something else in return, as networking, as a new job opportunity, as some new wisdom. Like, be open. And that's one thing I had to also learn, is how to let go of things that I've worked hard for, and learn that okay, rest is important, and partnership is important as well. And if you partner up with somebody who knows your beginning from the end to the beginning, you said cheat code for what? Yeah, it's the cheat code, okay? What are we talking about today? I didn't bring my handy dandy notebook out here, Booze Clues. I didn't bring it out here today, so we kind of going off the dome. I recorded a couple episodes, y'all. I'm not gonna say which episode this is, because I've already proclaimed. Don't know if that word will right, like Tony Gatson say, but I'm gonna use it right there. I claimed something already to be episode 1, but I just wasn't feeling like myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was kind of like frigid, and like I didn't like the energy I was pulling in. But we gonna see. We gonna see. It's Mother's Day today. Today is May the 14th. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Whenever this episode posts, hopefully I don't have to do a whole bunch of editing to this. It's only been 11 minutes, golly. Let's break it down. Since I am a woman who is simply evolving, let me talk about the logo that you guys are now seeing. The logo. The baby? No. The inspiration to my logo is 2 women. If you guys can pay attention or you take notice, that both women have a crown covering both heads, because no matter what stage in your life that you are, whether you claim to be one version of yourself and you're becoming a healed version of yourself, or a higher version of healed from one version to the next as we continue to evolve, you still have your crown. You are still the living daughter of God. Okay? Like, you are still worthy. There is, I am love, I create love, I attract love, I am strong, I am beautiful, I am intelligent, I am worthy, I am a child of God. No matter what stage in life you are in, whether it could be looked at as inferior or not, you're still worthy. You're still a queen. You're still beautiful. So I want you guys to know, like, sometimes as we go through life, we tend to compare, like, oh, I kind of miss the old version of myself. But you don't know, there's some things that God allows you to keep within you. You know, I think in this next topic I want to do another pod. It's called Aborted But Still Pregnant. And some things that you think that you aborted from your life are still within you. You know, there's a process that happens. Like, you may physically be away from a area in your life, whether you have to leave a situation or whatever it is, but you are still pregnant with wisdom. Yes, that situation has been aborted, but you still take on different parts as wisdom to help you grow and evolve, have more, and have a deeper outlook on life. One thing that I've learned is, as I've been maturing as a woman, I think this might be the topic. What was the topic that I said? I said when I was in the shower, and I can't remember it. But it was maturity versus, golly, it was such a good topic, you guys. It was maturity versus, maturity versus ignorant trauma. Okay? Because I'm probably going to reword that once it comes to me, but there's a difference. I think there's a difference between us maturing and then us being triggered through our trauma and looking down on other women. I notice this is a certain like pattern in life, including within myself. Something happens to you, then because you haven't healed from that situation, whether it was molestation, whether it was an abortion, whether it was you having a promiscuous season, whether it was you being married, now you're divorced, whether it was a physical abusive relationship, whether it was um you climbed the corporate ladder and now you're working a quote unquote inferior job. Maturity has you look at things with a more broad perspective, a more healed perspective. You are able to properly take in the pros and the cons. To me, the opposite, the trigger and the trauma response is like, oh, baby mama say this, or like, that could never be me, or comparing one situation to the next. It's like, okay, bitter baby mamas, the girl who stays with a dude, and she's not, when she's a weak woman, or things of this nature. I feel like when you mature, you realize that instead of something that you possibly have seen or can relate to, whether you've been through it, like I said, personally or through a friend or whatever, you look at that person with compassion. You don't talk down on another woman because she's in that situation. You don't talk down on the woman who your partner is with and getting in the middle and taking on certain insecurities when it's like, okay, no, it's just the fact that a person cheating has nothing to do with you, for one. Whether the woman knew about it or not, that's her integrity and her character. Don't take on a situation that is outside of yourself just because it's hurting your feelings. So now you walk through life with this villainhood and this victimhood type of personality now, and it's like you low-key judging. That's why everybody's so bitter and like just unhealthy, and the thief of comparison. Okay, like it's just not okay. You don't want to get lost up in that, and that's the one thing that I don't like about, and that's why it's really important for us to be transparent, is because your transparency, your honesty, your integrity, your character all show a different thing to the upcoming generation. You know, so if I'm a woman who's saying you don't, and this is the problem with all these different societal new norms that we have nowadays, it's like you see people downing people like Krishan, I don't know, either sticking up or for any of those celebs in that type of lifestyle or whatever, whether it was physical or not, somebody got cheated on or not, like, knock it down, baby boo. You've been through that. I don't know if it's been through high school, where they've been, you just like to do, maybe y'all weren't talking or whatever, y'all weren't dating, but you were talking and you figured out it was somebody else. Like, be humble, because you don't know if it hasn't happened to you, it could happen. You know, like, through everything that I've been through in 2022, it's helped me to understand, like, everybody has some type of trauma that you would not want to go through. So to talk down on their trauma because their issues seem inferior to yours because of the sake of your ego, it's just not good. We're here to uplift each other. Like, as women, like, you know, we have to learn how to say, okay, instead of saying all men aren't this, why don't we get together and say, okay, you know what? There might be a lot of men out here and women. Like, let's not forget that also women can do some of the most grimiest things as far as friendship as a male could do to you. They both impact you in a negative way. So why don't we prepare our peers to say, okay, look, I've been through this. This is what I've learned. This is how you this is how you operate in the world, you know? This is what I've learned that benefited me the best. And and instead of teaching things from a scarcity, inferior perspective, like tell the truth. Because one thing I've learned is a lot of times growing up, this is before this different new social media world that we are living in. Like when I was in high school, I graduated in 2016 from high school. Like all that, those times, it was mostly just love and hip hop, bad girls club, stuff like that we were looking at, right? And you'll see those types of things on TV, and then you see or hear about things within your family, but it's like, are you really being honest and saying, taking accountability for the things that you've done as a woman? Like, how can I come to a young girl and say, all men ain't this one? It's like, I participated in certain things, you know? Because unless you were like kidnapped or something like that, at the end of the day, there is always a way of escape. I don't care if you maybe have not been strong enough to allow, I went through this personally, you may not have been strong enough for your actions to finally align with your wisdom, with your intellect, to know the correct thing to do, because of your trauma, fears, or whatever that you have, fear of abandonment, whatever that was mainly pulling how you operate in the world. That's typically the main thing that a lot of women get stuck up on. It wasn't because that person was so great. It wasn't because of certain things like that. It's because we weren't operating and we didn't believe in ourselves. So it was truly because of a inferior view of ourselves that allowed us to stay in certain situations that were not healthy, no matter how much we know the right thing. Because like I said, in my previous podcast, I would say I would never do this, I would never do that, and I could never do this. And I went through a lot of those things that I said I would never do, which we'll be discussing in a later topic. But that's all because truly, through my identity, I still was operating as a 15-year-old who was being promiscuous, who then got exposed, who then started to feel judged, and who isolated herself. So, and was still looking for love in the wrong places, and was trying to finally get her, who felt pride from finally not being intimate with nobody, but then when she broke down, she would cry, and then she feels disgusted with herself. Why can't we just say, I wasn't strong enough? I was operating out of pain. I was operating out of lack. I was operating out of whatever that made me show up in this way, which meant I could only receive, no matter if the person had the capability of treating me better or not. I was not requiring that of that person because I didn't think I was worthy of it. Yes, it sounds good to talk a good game. We all can do that. We can all say we're worthy of this and that and this and that, but truly, you can say you're it's like this analogy. I like this thing from the sermon that Darius Daniels just preached. A lot of us, this is what I've noticed too, is a lot of times, think about how a plant evolves, right? Some people are only receptive to the dirt phase, meaning the planting phase, meaning the putting the seed into the dirt. So for that person, a lot of things seems grimy, a lot of things seems dark, a lot of things seem gloomy, right? Because the seed needs to go through this process. If you put the seed right in the sun, it's going to dry out, right? So that might be the stage in your life that you're currently at. And that means sometimes the healed parts of you can only offer seed form to certain people. So sometimes you meet people and it's like, oh, that person moved on and is doing better or whatever. Or that person seems to be doing better or whatever like that. It could be a situation like that, right? Or something like that. It's because that's all you were able to do at that point in your life, right? But then you have somebody who comes along and they water, right? And I had to learn this new aspect about life because it loosens the grip that you have trying to control people and how long that they're in your life. I had to embrace that sometimes God only allows you to be in a person's life for a certain phase and a certain process of this process. And maybe down the line you'll come along and you'll come along to trim and clip and just keep the health of the flower up. Maybe so. Or maybe each person, there seems that we can all benefit from each other, but it seems to be like until you're able to give those things to yourself, until you're able to really stand alone and know that, okay, a seed has to do this, you won't be afraid when your relationship goes through of any sort dark phases, shut off phases, processes where it seems like you're not really growing because you've learned how to master that within yourself. That's why being single is so important. That's why I really value this single season, because first it seemed like in the beginning of the year I was in this like dark spot, but I wasn't able to. That's why your relationship with God is so important, because as I went through this process and it seemed like nothing around me is growing, nothing around me is doing anything. You don't notice that you're really sprouting. The roots are peeking out of that little bean, that little seed. You don't notice it because it's like it's dark, you can't see what's going on, right? And then you get to the sprouting season, and then that's when you start to get some water even more, because like, oh my God, this is what's happening, the sprouting season. So somebody might come along and they're just pouring a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge, a lot of outlets, a lot of resources, a lot of connections at you, and that's all that person was there to do in your life, to help you open up your mindset, right? And then as you continue to grow, you get to a place to where, I don't know, maybe they're putting a little fence around you, have a little protection. So maybe you come into a community to try to support you, or that somebody's coming up putting those sticks and tying it with string. There's different phases in your life, and you have to be able to understand those phases within yourself first. So then that way you can get the best out of your relationships of all sorts. That's where I am currently at, is learning how to understand and really receive those things within myself and not discredit what growth is really going on within me because it doesn't look the ideal way. I'm gonna do another topic of don't let Disney and don't let the media rob you. Because for a lot of women, including myself, I let the fairy tale life rob me, like, of being able to receive a man in the correct way, right? Because a lot of times we're shown savior, everything, protector, provider, but that's like, you forget that man has to go through a whole process of his own, a whole, you know what I'm saying? Like, they see, when you watch Shrek had to go through all of these different things on his own with the donkey, all these journeys and arguments with friends and breaking up and having to split apart, and he goes through all these things just to be able to be prepared to get to you. As you do, you have to go in there and you have to sulk and you have to go in there and cry, you have to go there and go through all these reflective things of the princess or whatever. You're trying to see if like you try to go through this independent streak of, I'm gonna get myself out of this thing. And then, it's like we all have these processes that we have to go through, but I can't understand and respect and honor your processing if I think mine is greater, if I don't understand that yours is equally as important, that we both can come together and support each other, right? Because that's the end goal. The evolving process is a really beautiful, sometimes seems boring. I'm going through this phase in my life where rest seems unproductive. I'm trying to fight through that. Like, hold on, wait a minute. You ever get to a place in your life, because this is what you're going to go through, okay? Once you start your healing journey, especially when you have therapy involved, is you finally get to the place where you get to compartmentalize and put all your stuff on the shelf, and you got a display case, right, that you can go and pull information from anytime you need it, right? And it's like, okay, now that that's all stored away and locked up in their little display cases, typically I'm a overthinker. I'm learning how my brain works. um all those scenarios in my head ain't going like how they used to, right? So typically you feel tired, or you try to distract yourself. The busy life, the booked and busy, the ambition, that toxic mentality typically is to stem you away from distracting yourself, right? And now that that's getting balanced, mm, so now, no, do I not only have had important conversations with a lot of people who I had to have important conversations with, not only did I get to diagnose and understand why I showed up in certain situations the way that I have, but they're silent now. Because this is what this is what happens. Once you take control and of your brain, of your mind, of your life, all of those false added on narratives, you get to speak down onto those things. It's like, okay, hold on, that wasn't trauma. You taught me this. So now you're empowered because you're not taking on a victim mindset. You're empowered because it's like, oh, I learned this now. So now when that comes about, I can handle it in this way. And not only do I have the wisdom, but I went and had the correct conversation with that person if need be to settle it. Right? So why do you have to think about that? And don't worry about it. Sometimes those thoughts will try to come up and try to say, well, you should have said this. You should have said that. I cast that down in Jesus' name, because that's not truth. That's my ego trying to protect myself. I don't need that protection. I am calm. I am at peace with the closure that I've given it to myself. Okay? You gotta learn how to do that for all the scenarios in your life, right? Because then moving forward, anything that happens to you, because if you haven't know, it's like, okay, my brain be working like this, right? You ever talk to somebody, whatever, you could have been at work, let's use work as an example, and I had a problem with sticking up for myself, right? So it came a point in time to one of my old managers, right? He was trying to get me to do something. I'm like, wait, Ebony, I know who I am. I know what I do. I know what I offer this place. This is what I can give you. And at a certain point in time, it's a cutoff because I have boundaries. When you finally start to do those things, sometimes the guilt because you haven't been able to do it, like the soft part of me, the nurturing part of me, the people pleasing part of me would be like, Ebony, you should have said this way. No, this is what it's going to look like for my life. I was polite. I was stern. I was firm. That's okay. You don't have to learn how to coax yourself through the things that you're able to compartmentalize, because that's the only way. I said this prayer all the time. Like before I even started podcasting again, I had to say this every morning. God gave me the wisdom to speak truth and speak the message of the experiences that I've gone through. I'm not speaking them to condemn. I'm speaking them to educate and to teach and coach people on coach women how to navigate life. How to not look down on yourself because of anything that's occurred in your life. Whether, like I said, it was an inferior, quote unquote, version of yourself before you got to this new revelation of life, this new acceptance of your life. Like, because the old version of me, there's so many things that I will talk about later on that would have really. It's bad enough when you got people who will always be there to be down on you if you give them the opportunity to. And then to do that for yourself, on top of seeing similar people in certain situations and seeing how society views and talks about that person, because we are in a social media era, you have to build some confidence within yourself. You just have to. It's really important. It's imperative for life. How is Mother's Day? How can you give that to your, baby? Ooh, my child. Maturing through your healing journey also will allow you to pour into your children, not from trauma, meaning not saying, hey, you need to go out and do this. You need to go out and get good grades because this is this, and you don't need to wait for no man to take care of you. No, daughter, you are strong. You are beautiful. You are intelligent. You are worthy. Go get whatever your heart desires. And you doing what your heart desires, you staying connected to God, you help you being in partnership with God for him to help you to fulfill the purpose that he placed you here to fulfill, you will meet your purpose partner who is aligned with what you're doing. How much better does that sound? And anybody who does not align with your purpose is probably not the person that you need to have close to you. Doesn't mean that they're a bad person, but you need to be able to decipher, did this person add to my purpose? Because you have to stay focused, right? That's the difference. Hey, daughter, life is not always going to be about serving your family, although that is one of the greatest things that you will ever do in your life is to serve your kids. You know? But that's not all that's out there for you. You know? You can do anything that your heart and mind are set out to do. Enjoy you. Learn you. Figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And if you have any questions, and then this is what also maturity will do. Hey, mom, this is what happened to me. Oh, I told you so. No. Okay, well, this is what happened to me. And you're also doing this. Being able to discern when the appropriate time is, because you don't want to also give someone certain information before they're able to process the information, which can lead to premature promiscuous things, especially if they're regarding promiscuous natures. You let them know, hey, daughter, this is what I did, and this is what I had to learn, and this is what it taught me. You know? It doesn't say, hey, dude's gonna do this anyway, so you do this. No. For your male, for your son as well. Hey, son, this is what I did out of my pain, and this is what that means. This doesn't mean you have to go out and retaliate. This is so you can have compassion to understand what you could possibly run into as you're figuring out who your wife is going to be. This is how you deal with that. Because even at a young age, as you all know, trauma don't start at 20 something, right? Because it would be ideal that we can go out and learn, and a person can just, continue to either date, or I personally don't recommend dating early. I personally would say dating like once you get into college is preferably best. I think just having a guy friend, which I feel like is kind of very loose, because I don't really believe that you can be friends with guys if you can have associates as men. From my experience, I've learned this as well. I will talk about that later. But just enjoy that person's company. Enjoy what that person is growing up to become. As you know what I'm saying, from adolescence all the way up until high school. Allow the person to focus on who they are, because you don't want to get stuck on thinking that the person, because that can happen. You spend all that time from K to 12. Let's say you stay in one area for your whole life, right? And you grow up knowing this person from K to 12, right? Sometimes sometimes your proximity to a person can make it seem like, whether it's proximity within a family, a friend, or whatever, it can make it seem like a person's place in your life is permanent. That's a really strong bond to build with somebody for 12 years plus. So, accept that person for who they are. I had to learn this the hard way. From, like I said, my Disney perspective, the things that I was able to romanticize about life, about whether it was my friends, whether it was a potential partner, you rob that person from being able to get to know you, and you get to know them without trying to control the narrative, because you have to learn what moving with intentionality is. Learning, like, okay, my standards is more so Moving with intentionality, it's all about yourself and your standards and your non-negotiables, not controlling what another person is doing, right? It's more so I'm being authentically myself. I'm doing what I feel like will give me the best outcome. You're not controlling nobody, you're controlling yourself. And that will show me how you respond to how I operate. And then I can make an informed decision on how to move further in the relationship. You know, instead of trying to see and bend, and like I said, we will have to compromise in some way, but especially in the early stages of building a relationship, it's imperative that you learn how to, like, okay, how do I respond to this, right? Because the longer that you're involved with a person, the more relaxed you typically will be. Sometimes things will start to slide, and then you walk down the line like, dang, how did that happen? Like, you know? So yeah. There's a lot of things. That's why I say I love the new name of my podcast and this is gonna be a worldwide brand, okay? Evolving. Double E, act like you know who it is. Because I'm a woman who's simply evolving. Period. I just love the wisdom that I'm able to give now because I have a healthier perspective. I have the proper support. Like, I've really been able to, God really was able to show me who I am and things I need to work on and things I need to change, things that I was in denial about that really matter to me. And how to finally put my words into alignment with my actions and not feel guilty because of people pleasing tendencies that I grew up with and that I had. Not to feel bad for turning my heart away from somebody. One of the hardest things that I had to learn how to do. Like I said, sometimes you will not be there to see the whole you ever noticed, like, okay, maybe you planted a tree as a kid, right? And then you moved away from that house, and then let's say one day you come back or whatever, and it's like, oh, look how big that tree has gotten. Sometimes you're not supposed to be there to see the entire, or you won't even be there to see the entire thing of another person's journey. You have to be more focused on your own journey. And then if you are a mother, if you are a father, my platform is basically more so geared to women, from a young girl to women my age and to whoever else. If you're older than me, hopefully my wisdom as well can help you as well. And also for men, if you do watch this pod, to be able, or listen to this pod, to be able to understand the woman's mind a little bit more so you can have healthy relationships. So that is my goal. But most of my information will be geared towards women. I'm not a man, so I can't speak about how men operate. I can only speak on, moving forward, I can only speak on what I would do in a certain circumstance and what that resembles and what that means for me, right? How I react, what that means for me. That means I was triggered in some way. Why was I triggered? And I can start to break that down. So, yes, this was a very good pod. Just a deal, I guess you could say a icebreaker, to getting reintroduced to my platform, this new podcast, the visuals. We are here. Audio, you can go into whatever your favorite podcasting platform is. I am on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, what is it? So is it Sweetheart Radio, iHeartRadio, and I think something else. I can't remember the other podcasting platform. I did upload myself onto, and then I am on YouTube. And like I said again, you can connect with me on my Instagram for the podcast and my other affiliate social media pages at Evolving and Evolving with Ebony. So with this pod, I will have more relaxed stuff on my personal Instagram. Golly, I got so much I can't even think about what I got on my personal YouTube channel, which should be more so like lifestyle, fitness, beauty. This is more so just like for educational purposes, for you to have something to listen to and gain wisdom from. And then other stuff is more like, more inside scoop on myself. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I will see you in the next episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to season 4. Oh my God, it's the consistency for me. I'm very proud of myself, even though I had to take a break for a minute. God is great. God is good. All of this is because of him. And yeah, I'm just doing God's work that he has me here to do. So yeah, if you guys want to be a host on the pod, you can email me at simplyevolvingpodcast@gmail.com and send in something there, or you can follow me on my social media pages and DM me as well. And yes, let's connect, let's network, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Bye.